I pulled into the gravel driveway and shut off the engine. The Honda Civic made that rattling sound it had been making for the last 100 miles. I'd need to get that looked at eventually, but right now I had bigger problems. The house sat in front of me like a tired old man. 2 stories of white paint that wasn't white anymore, more like the color of old teeth. The porch sagged on one side, and half the shutters hung crooked, but it was mine. All mine for the bargain price of $43,000. I grabbed my duffel bag from the passenger seat and walked up to the front door. The key turned easy enough. The realtor had said the previous owners moved out 6 months ago, but the place smelled like it had been empty longer than that. Dust and something else I couldn't place. Metallic almost. The front door opened into a living room with hardwood floors that probably looked good once. Now they were scratched and covered in a layer of dust thick enough to write your name in. The walls were bare, except for a few nail holes where pictures used to hang. I dropped my bag and walked through the downstairs. Kitchen with white cabinets that needed a good scrubbing. Dining room with a chandelier missing half its bulbs. Small bathroom with pink tile that had to be from the 70s. The stairs creaked when I climbed them. 3 bedrooms upstairs and another bathroom. The master bedroom had windows facing the backyard. Through the grimy glass I could see an old shed and what used to be a garden. This was it. My fresh start. My chance to figure out what came next after getting laid off from the marketing firm in Portland. I'd been there 8 years before they decided my position was redundant. Funny how quickly you become redundant. I spent the next hour bringing stuff in from the car. Didn't have much. 2 suitcases, a box of books, my laptop, and a cooler with some food that wouldn't keep much longer. The moving truck with my furniture wouldn't arrive until Thursday. That gave me 3 days to sleep on the floor and figure out what I'd gotten myself into. I set up my laptop on the kitchen table and plugged it into the wall. The Wi-Fi password was taped to the refrigerator. The previous owners had left the internet on, which saved me a trip to wherever you went to get internet turned on in a town this small. My stomach growled. The sandwich I'd eaten in Bend was a memory now, and it was getting close to 6 o'clock. I needed groceries anyway. Might as well see what passed for a store in Millfield. Downtown was 3 blocks of old buildings that looked like they'd been there since Oregon was a territory. Main Street had a hardware store, a diner called Mabel's, a post office, and Price's Market. The market took up the corner spot in a brick building with big windows and a faded awning. A bell rang when I pushed through the door. The place was bigger than it looked from outside. Narrow aisles packed with everything from canned goods to fishing tackle. The smell of coffee and something fried drifted from a deli counter in the back. "Help you find anything?" I turned around. A guy in his 60s stood behind the counter near the register. Gray hair, flannel shirt, the kind of weathered face you get from spending time outdoors. "Just looking around," I said. "New in town." His face lit up like I'd just told him Christmas was coming early. "Well, I'll be. You must be the fellow bought the old Brennan place." Word traveled fast in small towns. "That's right. Terry Nelson. Jeffrey Price. My family's run this store for 30-some years." He came around the counter and stuck out his hand. "Heard someone finally bought that house. Been sitting empty too long. What brings you to our little corner of the world?" I shook his hand and tried to think of an answer that wouldn't lead to more questions. "Looking for a change of pace." Sure. City life gets old, doesn't it? Where you coming from?" "Portland." "Big city. What kind of work you do?" "Marketing. Used to, anyway." Jeffrey nodded like that explained everything. "Well, there's not much call for marketing around here, but we got plenty of other opportunities. You handy with tools?" "Some." "Good. That house is going to need work. Brennan's kept it up pretty well, but 6 months empty takes a toll. You planning to fix it up yourself or hire someone?" I picked up a shopping basket. "Haven't decided yet." "Well, if you need recommendations, I know all the contractors worth knowing, and the ones to avoid." He laughed. "What kind of timeline you working with?" The questions kept coming while I walked the aisles. Where was I from originally? Did I have family? Was I married? Kids? What made me pick Millfield? How long was I planning to stay? I answered what I had to and deflected the rest. Small town curiosity, I figured. Probably didn't get many new residents. I grabbed milk, bread, eggs, coffee, and a few frozen dinners. Enough to get me through the next couple days. Jeffrey rang me up and bagged everything in paper sacks. "You need help getting settled, you just holler," he said. "We take care of our neighbors around here." "Thanks. I appreciate it." "And don't be a stranger. Stop by anytime. Always like hearing what's happening with the old places." I carried the groceries back to the house as the sun started setting behind the mountains. The streetlights came on, all 6 of them. Millfield rolled up the sidewalks early. Back in the kitchen, I put the groceries away and heated up a frozen dinner in the microwave. Salisbury steak and mashed potatoes. Tasted like cardboard, but it was food. I ate at the kitchen table while scrolling through contractor websites on my laptop. The house needed more work than I'd expected. New paint inside and out. Kitchen cabinets refinished or replaced. Bathroom updates. Probably new flooring in a few rooms. The estimates I was seeing online made my savings account feel smaller. I'd have to be smart about what I tackled first. By 9 o'clock, my eyes were getting heavy. The drive from Portland had taken longer than expected, and I'd been running on adrenaline and bad coffee. I thought about setting up the air mattress I'd bought, but the couch in the living room looked comfortable enough. I brushed my teeth in the downstairs bathroom and changed into sweats and a t-shirt. The couch was old but solid, better than the floor. I was asleep before I finished wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The next morning, I woke up with a crick in my neck and sunlight streaming through windows that needed cleaning. My phone said 7:23. I'd slept better than expected. I shuffled to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. While it brewed, I stood at the window looking out at the backyard. The shed was bigger than I'd thought, maybe 12 by 16 feet. 3 padlocks hung from a chain wrapped around the door handles. The coffee finished brewing. I poured a cup and added milk. First sip tasted like salvation. That's when I saw the paper on the counter, a single sheet folded in half, cream-colored, heavy stock, the kind of paper you'd use for wedding invitations. I stared at it for a moment. I hadn't put anything on the counter last night. I was sure of that. I'd cleaned up after dinner, put my laptop away, turned off the lights. I picked up the paper and unfolded it. At the top, in neat black ink, someone had written, "Your life depends on following these rules exactly." Below that, 6 numbered items in the same careful handwriting. 1. Never go outside after midnight. 2. Never enter the shed behind the house. 3. If you hear knocking after dark, do not answer the door. 4. Keep all curtains closed between sunset and sunrise. 5. Never invite anyone inside the house. 6. If you see lights in the woods, go to the basement immediately. I read it twice. Then I read it again. Someone was screwing with me. Had to be. Probably Jeffrey from the market, or maybe one of his friends. Small town humor. Let's mess with the city boy. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in the trash can under the sink. Very funny. Real original. I spent the day making the house feel more like home. Found a can of white paint in the basement and rolled it over the worst scuff marks in the living room. The walls looked better. Not perfect, but better. The light fixture in the kitchen had been bugging me since I got here. One of those old brass things with fake crystal dangles. Half the bulbs burned out. I drove back to town around noon. Bought a simple fixture at the hardware store. The guy behind the counter. Not Jeffrey this time. Someone younger. Asked if I was settling in okay at the Brennan place. Word traveled fast in small towns. Getting there, I told him. Installing the new fixture took longer than it should have. The old wiring was a mess, but I got it working. Much better. Clean white light instead of that dim yellow glow. Every now and then while I worked, I'd think about that stupid note and shake my head. Someone had put real effort into the prank. The handwriting looked genuine, not like someone trying to make it look old or mysterious. Just normal handwriting, but the rules themselves were ridiculous. Don't go outside after 11:11. Keep curtains closed. It was like something out of a bad horror movie. I wondered if they'd done this to other newcomers. Probably. Small town tradition, maybe. Scare the city folk. Around 3, I took a break and made a sandwich. Turkey and cheese on the bread I'd bought yesterday. I ate standing at the kitchen counter, looking out at the backyard. The shed still bothered me a little. 3 padlocks seemed like overkill for lawn equipment. But people were paranoid about theft these days. I finished the sandwich and got back to work. Replaced the burned-out bulbs in the dining room chandelier. Tightened a loose banister on the stairs. Small stuff, but it made a difference. By 6, I was tired and hungry. Heated another frozen dinner, chicken and rice this time. While it cooked, I swept up the debris from my projects. The house was starting to feel less abandoned. I ate dinner watching something mindless on my laptop. A cooking show where people competed to make elaborate desserts. The kind of thing I never watched in Portland, but somehow seemed right for a quiet evening in the middle of nowhere. The sun was setting when I finished eating. I washed my plate and fork, dried them, put them away. The kitchen felt organized now, functional. That's when I started thinking about the note again. I'd thrown it in the trash can under the sink that morning, crumpled it up and tossed it, feeling pretty clever about dismissing their little joke. But now, with darkness settling over the house, I found myself curious about the exact wording. Don't go outside after 11:11. That was rule 1, I was pretty sure. But what were the others? Something about the shed. Something about not answering the door. I opened the cabinet under the sink and pulled out the small trash can. Just a few things in there. The crumpled note, an empty frozen dinner box, a coffee filter from this morning. I picked out the note and smoothed it on the kitchen counter. The paper was cream-colored, thick, nice quality. Someone had spent money on this prank. I read through the rules again. 1. Never go outside between 11:11 p.m. and 6:06 a.m. 2. Never enter the shed behind the house. 3. If you hear knocking after dark, do not answer the door. 4. Keep all curtains closed between sunset and sunrise. 5. Never invite anyone inside the house. 6. If you see lights in the woods, go to the basement immediately. The specificity was what got me. 11:11 to 6:06. Not midnight to dawn, which would make more sense. And the woods. I hadn't seen any woods from the house, but maybe they were there, beyond the shed. I folded the paper and set it on the kitchen table. Whoever wrote this had put thought into it. The rules created a whole mythology, like they were trying to build suspense, make me wonder what would happen if I broke them. Well, I could play along. I spent the rest of the evening organizing my clothes in the master bedroom. My furniture was supposed to arrive tomorrow. A bed, a dresser, a couch, a few other pieces I'd ordered online. Basic stuff, but it would make the place livable. Around 10, I brushed my teeth and changed into sweats and a t-shirt. I'd been planning to sleep on the couch again, but first I wanted to check something. I went back to the kitchen and looked at the note. Rule 1. Never go outside between 11:11 and 6:06. My phone showed 10:47. I could test this. Walk out on the front porch at exactly 11:15, stand there for a few minutes, come back inside. Nothing would happen, obviously, because it was just a prank. But it would prove the point, show whoever was behind this that I wasn't some gullible city boy who believed in small-town ghost stories. I walked to the front door and checked the deadbolt. Locked, like I'd left it. The porch light was on. I'd flipped the switch earlier when I noticed it getting dark. 10:53. I went back to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. Drank it slowly, watching the minutes tick by on my phone. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of settling wood. Old houses made noise. Nothing mysterious about that. 11:05. I walked back to the front door and put my hand on the deadbolt. Through the small window beside the door, I could see the porch illuminated by the overhead light. Empty. The gravel driveway stretched away into darkness. 11:08. My heart was beating a little faster, which annoyed me. It was just a prank. There was nothing to be nervous about. I was going to step outside, stand on my own front porch for 5 minutes, then come back in and go to sleep. Tomorrow I'd probably see Jeffrey at the store, and he'd ask how my first few nights went, waiting for me to mention strange rules or mysterious warnings. 11:10. I positioned myself with my hand on the deadbolt, thumb ready to turn it. The metal felt cold under my skin. 11:11. I turned the deadbolt and reached for the door handle. Footsteps on gravel. I stopped, hand frozen on the handle. Someone was walking up my driveway. Slow, measured steps like they weren't in any hurry. I looked through the peephole. A figure was approaching the porch, medium height, wearing jeans and a gray hoodie. The hood was up, so I couldn't see their face clearly in the porch light. The footsteps stopped. Whoever it was had reached the bottom of the porch steps. I kept watching through the peephole. The figure stood there for a moment, then started up the steps. 3 wooden steps to the porch, each one creaking under their weight. They walked to the door and stopped directly in front of it. I was looking at someone wearing a gray hoodie, the same gray hoodie that was hanging in my closet upstairs. Exact same color, same style, same everything. The figure reached up and pulled back the hood. I stumbled backward from the door. It was my face looking back at me. My hair, my jawline, my nose. Even the small scar above my left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at age 7. The thing wearing my face smiled and knocked gently on the door. 3 soft taps. "Terry?" It spoke in my voice. Exactly my voice. Same tone. Same inflection. "Terry, it's cold out here. Can you let me in?" I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. "I know you're in there," my voice said from the other side of the door. "I can see the lights on. Please, I'm scared. Something's following me." Another gentle knock. "Terry, I just need somewhere safe to stay. Just for tonight." I closed my eyes, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Hallucination. Had to be. Stress from the move. Sleeping on a couch for 2 nights. The isolation of being alone in a strange place. My mind was playing tricks. "Please," my voice said again. I don't know what else to do. The knocking came again. Still gentle, still polite. Like I was asking myself for help. I stayed pressed against the wall, not moving, barely breathing. The rules had said not to answer knocking after dark. Don't invite anyone inside. Minutes passed. The knocking stopped, but I could hear movement on the porch. Footsteps going from the door to the window, then back to the door. "I'll wait," my voice said. "I'll wait right here until you're ready." More footsteps. It was pacing back and forth on the porch. I looked at my phone. 11:26. The pacing continued. Slow, steady steps across the wooden boards. Sometimes it would stop at the door and I'd hear breathing. My breathing, the same rhythm, the same depth. 11:35. "Terry?" my voice called out. "Are you sleeping? I'm still here, still waiting." I wanted to look through the peephole again, but I couldn't make myself move. What if it was looking back? What if I saw my own eyes staring through the glass? 11:42. The footsteps had stopped. I listened, straining to hear anything. The house was silent. I waited another 5 minutes, then crept to the peephole and looked out. The porch was empty. I watched for several more minutes, scanning what I could see of the driveway and yard. Nothing moved. No sign that anyone had been there at all. 11:53. I stayed by the door until 12:15, listening. No more footsteps, no more knocking. Whatever I'd seen, or thought I'd seen, was gone. I stayed by the front door until my legs cramped. When I finally checked my phone again, it was 6:07 in the morning. Time to look outside. I turned the deadbolt and opened the door. Cool morning air hit my face. The porch was empty, just like it had been through the peephole. I stepped outside and walked to the edge of the steps. My car sat in the driveway where I'd left it. No other vehicles, no footprints in the gravel that I could see. The yard looked normal. Overgrown grass, a few scattered leaves, nothing out of place. I walked around the entire house, checking for signs that someone had been there. No footprints under the windows, no disturbed ground near the back door. The shed still had its 3 padlocks hanging from the chain. Whatever had happened last night, there was no evidence of it now. I went back inside and made coffee. My hands shook a little as I measured the grounds. The note sat on the kitchen table where I'd left it, cream-colored paper with those 6 rules written in careful handwriting. Never go outside between 11:11 p.m. and 6:06 a.m. I'd followed that rule without meaning to. The footsteps had started at exactly 11:11, just as I was about to open the door. And now at 6:07, everything was back to normal. I drank my coffee and tried to think of logical explanations. Someone playing an elaborate prank. A person who looked similar to me in the dark. Maybe I'd been more tired than I thought and my eyes had played tricks. But I knew what I'd seen. That face had been exactly mine, down to the scar above my left eyebrow. I spent the day trying to stay busy, unpacked more clothes, fixed a loose cabinet door in the kitchen, called the electric company about setting up my account. Normal things that normal people did when they moved to a new house. But I kept thinking about the rules, and about the person on my porch who'd worn my face. By evening, I'd made a decision. I was going to follow the rules, not because I believed in whatever supernatural nonsense they implied, but because someone clearly wanted me to think the house was haunted. Until I figured out who was behind this and why, it made sense to be careful. The 3rd rule said, don't answer knocking after dark. The 4th said, keep curtains closed from sunset to sunrise. I'd already closed all the curtains. Now I needed to think about the other rules. Rule number 5 caught my attention. Keep television or radio on in living room from sunset to sunrise. I'd missed that one completely. Last night, I'd been so focused on the door and the footsteps that I hadn't even noticed this rule. I went back to the living room and turned on the TV. A late-night talk show was playing. I left it on and turned the volume to a reasonable level. The evening passed quietly. I heated another frozen dinner and ate while watching a detective show. At 10:30, I changed into sweats and a t-shirt. My furniture was supposed to arrive tomorrow, which meant one more night on the couch. I settled in with a pillow and blanket, keeping the TV on. The volume was low enough that I could sleep, but loud enough to hear if someone turned it off. I'd tested it from upstairs earlier. The sound carried just enough. Sleep came easier than I'd expected. Maybe because I was following the rules this time, or maybe because I was exhausted from the previous night. Either way, I drifted off sometime after 11. My phone woke me. The ringtone cut through the sound of the television, sharp and insistent. I sat up on the couch, disoriented. The living room was dark except for the glow from the TV screen. Some infomercial was playing, a woman demonstrating kitchen knives. The phone rang again. I fumbled for it on the coffee table, squinting at the bright screen. The caller ID made my stomach drop. Mom. Below that, Charlotte Nelson, and below that, her old phone number. The same number I'd called 1,000 times before the accident. The same number that had been disconnected 3 years ago after she died. I stared at the screen. The phone kept ringing, vibrating in my hand. This wasn't possible. Mom's phone had been destroyed in the car accident. Her number had been canceled. I'd handled all of that myself, along with everything else after the funeral. But there it was. Her name, her number, calling me at, I checked the time in the corner of the screen, 11:47 p.m. During the forbidden hours. I thought about the rules. Never go outside between 11:11 p.m. and 6:06 a.m. Don't answer knocking after dark. Keep curtains closed. Never invite anyone inside. Go to basement if you see lights in woods. Keep television on. None of the rules mentioned phone calls. But if someone was trying to mess with my head, calling from my dead mother's number would definitely qualify. The ringing stopped. The screen went dark. I sat there holding the phone, waiting to see if it would ring again. The infomercial kept playing. The woman was now slicing a tomato with one of her knives, the blade cutting through it like paper. My phone stayed silent. I checked the call log. The missed call was there. Mom, Charlotte Nelson, her old number, 11:47 p.m. I touched the number to see if it would give me options to call back or send a message. The phone tried to connect, then gave me an error message. The number you have dialed is not in service. Of course it wasn't, because my mother was dead, and dead people don't make phone calls. I set the phone back on the coffee table and lay down again, but sleep wasn't happening now. I kept staring at the ceiling, listening to the TV and thinking about that phone call. Someone had spoofed the number. That was the only logical explanation. There were apps that let you make calls from fake numbers. Someone was trying to scare me, and they'd done their research. They knew about my mother, knew her old number, knew it would shake me up. But how did they get my phone number? I'd only given it to a few people since moving here. Jeffrey at the store, the real estate agent, the utility companies. I was still thinking about it when I heard the truck in the driveway. Thursday morning brought the delivery I'd been waiting for. I was up early, coffee already made, when I heard the rumble of a large engine outside. Through the kitchen window, I watched a white delivery truck back up toward the house. The driver got out and walked to my front door. I opened it before he could knock. "Terry Nelson," he asked. "That's me. Got a mattress delivery for you. Queen size." He was about my age, maybe a little younger. Dark hair, green eyes, wearing a brown uniform with a name tag that said, Carter. He kept glancing around the porch and yard like he was looking for something. "Great," I said. "Where do you need me to sign?" He handed me a tablet with a signature screen. "You want it upstairs, right? Master bedroom?" "Yeah, that'd be perfect." Carter nodded but didn't move toward the truck. He was still looking around, and I could see tension in his shoulders. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just..." He gestured vaguely at the house. "This is the old Brennan place, right?" "That's what people keep telling me." "How long you been living here?" 3 days. He gave me a look I couldn't quite read. "Huh. Well, let me get your mattress." Carter walked back to the truck and opened the rear doors. The mattress was wrapped in plastic and looked heavier than I'd expected. He pulled it partway out of the truck, then looked back at me. "You mind giving me a hand with this? Usually I got a partner, but he called in sick today." "Sure." I walked over and grabbed one end of the mattress. It was awkward and heavy, but we managed to get it out of the truck and onto the porch. Carter seemed eager to get the job done quickly. He kept checking his watch and glancing at the windows of the house. "You in a hurry?" I asked as we maneuvered the mattress through the front door. "Not exactly. Just got a lot of deliveries today." We carried the mattress through the living room and up the stairs. Carter was breathing hard by the time we reached the master bedroom, and not just from the effort of moving the mattress. "Where you want it?" he asked. "Against that wall is fine." We set the mattress down and leaned it against the wall. Carter immediately headed for the bedroom door. "Wait," I said. "Don't you need to unwrap it or set it up?" "Nah, that's your job. Just cut the plastic off and drop it on your box spring." He paused in the doorway. "You got a box spring coming too, right? Tomorrow." "Good. Well, you're all set then." He was already heading for the stairs. I followed him down, confused by his rush to leave. "Thanks for the help," Carter said when we reached the front door. No problem. Hey, can I ask you something? He stopped with his hand on the door handle. What's that? People keep acting weird when they find out I live here. What's the deal with this house? Carter looked uncomfortable. I don't know what you mean. Come on. You've been jumpy since you got here. Jeffrey at the store asked a bunch of questions about the place. Even the guy at the hardware store seemed interested. Small town, Carter said. People talk. Talk about what? He was quiet for a moment, looking out at his truck. Look, I don't know the whole story. But the family that lived here before, they left pretty sudden. Middle of the night kind of thing. Left a lot of their stuff behind. Why? Don't know. But there's been talk about the house for years. People say things happen here. What kind of things? Carter shook his head. I don't listen to that stuff. Just stories, you know. But he looked back at me. You been okay here? Nothing weird? I thought about the note with the rules, about the person with my face on the porch, about the phone call from my dead mother. It's been fine, I said. Good. That's good. He opened the door. Well, I better get going. Take care of yourself. He was down the porch steps and back to his truck before I could ask any more questions. I watched him drive away, thinking about what he'd said. The previous family had left suddenly, in the middle of the night. I spent the afternoon cutting the plastic off the mattress and setting it up in the master bedroom. It felt good to have a real bed again, even without the box spring. I tested it out, lying down and staring up at the ceiling. That evening, I made sure to turn on the television before sunset. A cooking competition was playing. I left it on while I heated dinner and ate at the kitchen table. The rules were becoming routine. Curtains closed, TV on. Don't answer knocking after dark. Stay inside between 11:11 and 6:06. I was getting used to the sound of the television in the background. It was actually kind of comforting, like having someone else in the house. I settled onto the couch around 10:30, planning to sleep in my new bed, once I was sure the dangerous hours had passed. The cooking show ended and switched to a late-night movie. Something from the 80s with bad special effects. I was half watching, half dozing, when I reached for the remote to turn the volume down. My elbow hit the power button. The television went black. The room fell into complete silence. I grabbed the remote and pressed the power button, but nothing happened. I tried again, pressing harder. Still nothing. Panic started to build in my chest. The rule said keep television or radio on from sunset to sunrise. I'd just broken it. I got up and walked to the TV, looking for a manual power button. There. A small button on the side of the screen. I pressed it. Nothing. I checked the power cord. It was plugged in tight. I tried unplugging it and plugging it back in. The TV stayed dark. The remote batteries must have died at the worst possible moment, and somehow that had killed the TV completely. I didn't have replacement batteries. I didn't have a radio either. I stood in the dark living room trying to think. Maybe the rule didn't matter. Maybe it was just part of the prank, meaningless words designed to make me paranoid. But I thought about Carter's nervousness, about the previous family leaving in the middle of the night, about the person with my face who'd known exactly when the forbidden hours began. I needed to get the TV working. I went to the kitchen and found a flashlight in one of the drawers. The beam cut through the darkness as I walked back to the living room. I checked all the connections again, tried the manual power button several more times. The TV was completely dead. I was standing there with the flashlight, trying to figure out what to do when I heard the footsteps. Heavy steps in the hallway, moving slowly from the back of the house toward the front. Each footfall was deliberate, unhurried, not trying to be quiet. I turned off the flashlight and stood perfectly still. The footsteps continued down the hallway, past the kitchen, past the dining room. They stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Then they started coming up. Each step creaked under the weight. I counted them. 1, 2, 3. Whoever was walking wasn't trying to hide their presence. They wanted me to hear them. 7, 8, 9. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs and turned toward the master bedroom, my bedroom. I heard them stop outside the door. Then the sound of the doorknob turning, metal on metal, slow and careful. My heart was hammering. I was standing in the living room in complete darkness, listening to someone, or something, enter my bedroom. The beam of the flashlight felt like a weapon in my hand, but I was afraid to turn it on. The footsteps moved around the bedroom above me, heavy, deliberate steps that made the old floorboards groan. Whatever was up there was searching for something, or someone. I remembered the rule about the television. Keep it on from sunset to sunrise. I'd broken that rule, and now something was in my house. I crept toward the TV, feeling my way in the darkness. My hands found the power cord again. I unplugged it, counted to 10, and plugged it back in. Nothing. The footsteps upstairs stopped moving. The house went completely silent. I tried the remote again, pressing the power button over and over. Still nothing. I felt around the side of the TV for the manual button and pressed it repeatedly. On the fourth try, the screen flickered to life. Blue light filled the living room and the sound of the movie came back. Dialogue and music that seemed incredibly loud after the silence. Above me, the footsteps started again. But now they were moving away from the bedroom, back toward the stairs. I listened as they came down, step by step, until they reached the bottom. Then they moved toward the back of the house. I heard the kitchen door open and close. I stood there shaking, staring at the TV screen. The movie was still playing, some scene with people running through a forest. I turned the volume down but left the picture on. The rules weren't suggestions. They weren't part of some elaborate prank. They were protection. I woke up Friday morning to something watching me. A small white cat sat in the middle of my living room, bright green eyes fixed on my face. It didn't move when I sat up on the couch, just kept staring. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. Still there. The front door was locked. I'd checked it twice before going to sleep. The back door too. All the windows were latched from the inside. I'd made sure of that after what happened with the TV. But here was this cat, sitting on my hardwood floor like it owned the place. It was completely white except for the eyes. No collar, clean fur, well-fed looking. Not a stray. The green eyes were bright, almost glowing in the morning light coming through the curtains. I stood up slowly. The cat didn't run. Most cats would bolt if a stranger moved toward them. This one just sat there, tail wrapped around its front paws, watching me. "How'd you get in here?" I said. The cat blinked once. That was it. I walked around the living room, checking the windows again, all locked. I went to the kitchen and tried the back door. Deadbolt turned, chain latched, same as I'd left it. When I came back, the cat had moved to the spot where I'd been sleeping. It sat on my pillow, still watching me. I thought about the rules. 6 of them, written on cream-colored paper. I'd read them so many times I had them memorized. None of them mentioned cats. Nothing about animals getting inside the house. But there was something else. Something I'd missed. I went to the kitchen table where I kept the note, unfolded it and read through the rules again. There it was, at the bottom. A 7th rule I'd somehow overlooked before. If you find a white cat inside the house, feed it immediately and let it leave through the front door. My hand shook as I read it twice more. 7 rules, not 6. How had I missed that? I looked back at the living room. The cat was still on my pillow, green eyes fixed on the kitchen doorway where I stood. Feed it immediately. I opened the cabinet above the sink. No cat food, obviously, but I had a can of tuna from my grocery run. That would work. The can opener felt clumsy in my hands. I kept glancing at the living room, making sure the cat was still there. It hadn't moved, just sat on my pillow like a white statue. I got the tuna open and dumped it onto a paper plate. The smell filled the kitchen, strong and fishy. "Here," I called. "Come eat." The cat stood up immediately. It jumped down from the couch and walked into the kitchen, moving with that smooth cat stride. No hesitation, like it knew exactly what was happening. I set the plate on the floor near the table. The cat went straight to it and started eating, fast, like it was starving. But it looked well fed, healthy. I stood there watching it eat. The whole thing felt wrong somehow. Not dangerous wrong like the footsteps or the phone call. Just off, like I was following a script I didn't understand. The cat finished the tuna in under a minute, licked the plate clean, then sat back and started washing its face with one paw. Let it leave through the front door. I walked to the front door and turned the deadbolt. The cat followed me, padding across the hardwood without making a sound. I opened the door. Morning air rushed in, cool and damp. The cat walked onto the porch, then stopped and looked back at me. For just a second, those green eyes seemed almost human, like there was someone looking out from behind them. Then the cat stepped off the porch and vanished. Not ran away. Not disappeared behind something. Vanished. One second it was walking across my gravel driveway. The next second there was nothing there. I closed the door fast and locked it. Saturday brought rain. Heavy drops drumming against the windows all day. I spent most of it inside, reading and trying not to think about the cat, where it had come from, how it got inside, why there was a rule about it. By evening, the rain had turned cold. I could hear it hitting the roof, steady and hard. I made sure all the curtains were closed before sunset, turned on the TV to a news program, ate a frozen dinner while watching weather reports. The rain kept coming. At 11:30, I remembered Rule 5, the one I'd missed Thursday night when the TV went out. But this wasn't about keeping the television on. This was different. During storms, light a white candle in the upstairs bathroom at midnight. Keep your bedroom door closed until the candle burns out. Another rule I'd somehow overlooked. How many were there really? I went upstairs and found a white candle in the bathroom cabinet. One of those thick ones that burn for hours. There was a book of matches next to it, like someone had left them there on purpose. I checked my phone. 11:57. The rain hammered the bathroom window. I could hear it running through the gutters, splashing onto the ground below. 11:58. I lit the candle and set it on the sink counter. The flame flickered in the draft from the window, but it stayed lit. 11:59. I backed out of the bathroom, leaving the door open just a crack so I could see the candlelight. Then I went to my bedroom and closed the door. Midnight. At first, nothing happened. Just rain against the windows and the sound of water in the gutters. Then I heard singing, a woman's voice coming from the bathroom, soft and low like a lullaby, the kind of song you'd sing to put a child to sleep. The melody was pretty, sweet even, but there was something wrong with it. The timing was off, like a recording played at the wrong speed, and the words didn't make sense. They sounded like English, but when I tried to focus on them, they slipped away. I sat on my bed, listening. The singing went on, never stopping for breath, never pausing between verses. I pulled my pillow over my head, but I could still hear it. That wrong, sweet voice singing its broken lullaby. The candle flame flickered under the bathroom door. I could see the light moving, casting shadows that danced across the hallway. 12:10, 12:15. The singing stopped at 12:17, just cut off in the middle of a note. I waited another few minutes, then opened my bedroom door. The candle was still burning on the bathroom counter, but the bathroom felt empty now. Cold. I blew out the candle and went back to bed. Tuesday evening, I drove to the Millfield Public Library. I'd been putting it off for days, but I needed answers. Someone in town had to know about the house, about what happened to the Brennan family. The library was a small brick building on 2nd Street, one room with tall windows and shelves that reached the ceiling. a few computers along one wall, and reading tables in the center. Allison Bishop worked behind the circulation desk, 50-something, with gray hair and a neat bun and wire-rimmed glasses. She looked up when I walked in. "Can I help you?" "I'm Terry Nelson. I bought the old Brennan place on Maple Street." Her expression changed, not unfriendly, but careful, like I'd said something that required thought. "I see. What can I do for you?" I was hoping to learn about the history of the house, the previous owners, maybe look at some old newspaper articles. Allison studied me for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to a filing cabinet behind her desk. "The Brennans lived there for 60 years, she said, pulling out a manila folder. "Harold and Margaret, then their son David and his family. Good people. Quiet." She opened the folder and spread some newspaper clippings on the desk. Headlines about church fundraisers and school events. Normal, small-town stuff. "They moved away in 2019, I said. "Yes. Do you know why?" Allison's hand stilled on the papers. "People move for all sorts of reasons. But they left suddenly, in the middle of the night. Who told you that?" "Carter, the delivery driver." She sighed and took off her glasses, cleaned them with a cloth from her pocket. "The Brennans were my neighbors for 30 years, she said finally. "David's children played with mine. We borrowed cups of sugar and watched each other's mail when we went out of town. What happened? I don't know. That's the truth. One day they were there, the next day they were gone. David called me from Portland, said they'd decided to move closer to Margaret's sister. Said they'd left some things behind, but not to worry about them." "What kind of things?" Allison put her glasses back on. "Furniture, clothes, David's workshop in the basement. Like they'd packed one suitcase each and walked out." She gathered up the newspaper clippings and put them back in the folder. "That's all I can tell you," she said. "I'm sorry, but there was something else. I could see it in the way she held the folder, the way she wouldn't quite meet my eyes." "There's more," I said. "No. People in town know something. Carter was nervous just being on the property. Jeffrey at the store keeps asking how I'm settling in, like he's waiting for something to happen." Allison closed the folder and put it back in the filing cabinet. "Some houses have reputations," she said quietly. "Fair or not. The Brennan place has been empty for 4 years. People talk." "What do they say?" "Nothing worth repeating." I stayed until the library closed at 8, but Allison wouldn't tell me anything else. Just gave me directions to the county records office if I wanted to research property history. I drove home in the dark, windshield wipers fighting a light drizzle. The house looked normal from the street, porch light on, windows glowing yellow. But I'd forgotten something important. I realized it as soon as I walked inside. The basement door stood open at the end of the hallway. I always checked it before bed, made sure it was closed tight. Tonight I'd been distracted by the trip to the library, by Allison's careful answers and the things she wouldn't say. I'd forgotten to check the basement door. I woke to someone calling my name from the basement. The voice drifted up through the floorboards, muffled but clear enough. "Terry? Terry, are you there?" I sat up on the couch, checking my phone. 3:22 in the morning. The TV was still on, playing some old western with the volume low. "Terry, I need help." I knew that voice. Jaden Maldonado, my college roommate. Same tone he'd used when he got locked out of our dorm room sophomore year. But Jaden lived in Seattle, had for the past 5 years. I stood up listening. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Terry, please, I'm hurt down here. I can't get out." My feet carried me toward the hallway before I thought about it. The basement door stood wide open at the end of the hall. I'd closed it after coming back from the library. I always closed it. "Thank God you're awake." Jaden's voice called up from the darkness below. I fell down the stairs. I think my leg's broken. I stopped at the doorway. The basement stretched down into black. I couldn't see anything past the first few steps. "How did you get in?" I called down. "The back door was unlocked. I've been calling for hours. Please, Terry, I need to get to a hospital." That didn't make sense. I checked the back door before bed, locked it myself. "Jaden, what are you doing here?" "I drove down to surprise you. Wanted to see your new place. But I fell as soon as I got to the basement. I can't move my leg." The voice sounded exactly right. Same inflection Jaden used when he was hurt or scared. Like the time he got in food poisoning from that sushi place near campus. I gripped the door frame. Every instinct told me to go down there. Help him. Get him to a hospital. But Rule 6 sat in my mind like a stone. Never go to the basement between sunset and sunrise. "Terry, are you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here. I'm really hurt. There's blood. I think I hit my head too." The desperation in his voice made my chest tight. This was Jaden, my friend, the guy who'd helped me move out of my apartment after graduation, who'd driven me to the airport when I couldn't afford a cab. I put one foot on the top step. "That's it," the voice said. "Come down. I'm at the bottom of the stairs." Something in the tone stopped me. Too eager. Jaden never sounded eager when he was hurt. He got quiet, almost embarrassed. "How did you know where I live?" I asked. Silence for a few seconds. Then, "You told me, remember? You sent me your address." I hadn't sent Jaden my address. Hadn't talked to him in 3 months. "Terry, please, I'm bleeding pretty bad down here." I backed away from the doorway. The voice followed me. "Don't leave me down here. I'm scared. It's so dark." Now it sounded wrong. Jaden didn't get scared of the dark. Never had, not even as kids when we'd camp in his backyard. "There's something else down here," the voice continued. "Something moving in the corner. Please, Terry, I don't want to be alone." I reached for the door handle. My hand shook as I gripped it. Terry, where are you going?" I slammed the door shut and turned the deadbolt. The voice cut off like someone had flipped a switch. Complete silence from the basement. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. Not even breathing. I stood there for 10 minutes, listening. The house was quiet except for the TV in the living room. Whatever had been down there, it wasn't Jaden. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. I learned the rules weren't suggestions. They were survival. I bought extra candles at Price's Market. Jeffrey asked why I needed so many white ones, but I just said, "I like the smell." He gave me a look, but didn't push. The TV stayed on every night from sunset to sunrise. I found channels that ran old movies and sitcom reruns. The sound became background noise, like white noise machines people used for sleep. The white cat appeared 3 more times, always in the morning, always hungry. I kept tuna cans stocked in the kitchen cabinet. The cat would eat, I'd open the front door, and it would vanish the moment it stepped off the porch. I started checking the rules note every morning, making sure no new ones had appeared. The paper stayed the same. 7 rules in careful handwriting. My duplicate came back twice. The first time it wore different clothes. A blue button-down shirt I'd never owned. It knocked softly and asked to come in, said it was cold and needed somewhere to stay. I watched through the peephole as it paced the porch for an hour. The second time was worse. It claimed to be a police officer, said there'd been a break-in in the neighborhood and it needed to search my house for evidence. The voice sounded official, authoritative, but through the peephole I could see it was still my face under a baseball cap. Both times I followed the rules, didn't answer, didn't open the door. Both times it left after midnight. I called Opal Thomas on a Thursday afternoon, figured she might know something about the house's history. "Terry," she said when she picked up, "how are you settling in?" "Fine, good. Listen, I wanted to ask about the previous owners." Silence on the other end. "The Brennans, right?" I continued. I heard they left pretty suddenly. Well, people move for all sorts of reasons. But they left furniture behind, clothes, like they packed in a hurry. I wouldn't know about that, Opal said. Her voice had gone careful, professional. Have there been problems with the house before? Things that might make people want to leave quickly? Problems? What kind of problems? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Another pause. Terry, is everything all right? Are you having issues with the plumbing? The electrical? No, nothing like that. I just heard people in town talking. People talk about everything in small towns. Doesn't mean much. What do they say about my house? I really couldn't say. Listen, I have another call coming in. Was there anything else? Opal, I just want to know. I'll check in with you soon, all right? Take care. The line went dead. I tried looking up the Brennan family online. David Brennan turned up nothing. Margaret Brennan brought up obituaries for 3 different women, none in Oregon. Harold Brennan was even more common. I searched for news articles about the house, the address, anything that might explain what happened. Nothing. It was like the family had never existed. I asked around town, but carefully. Mentioned the house to the woman at the post office. She got busy with paperwork real quick. Brought it up to the guy at the hardware store when I bought more light bulbs. He suddenly remembered he had inventory to check. Even Jeffrey at Price's Market got uncomfortable when I asked direct questions. You settling in all right out there? He'd ask. Yeah, mostly. Heard the previous family left pretty fast. His face would close up. Can't say I know much about that. Must have been sudden, though, leaving furniture and everything. People move for their own reasons, he'd say, then find something urgent to do in the back room. The whole town knew something, but nobody was talking. I started keeping a notebook. Wrote down every time something happened. The cat appearances, the voice in the basement, when my duplicate showed up. Patterns, if there were any. The cat came on Tuesdays and Fridays, usually around 7 in the morning. Always the same, sitting in the living room, staring at me until I fed it. The basement voice happened twice more. Once it sounded like my mother. Once like my high school friend Marcus. Both times claiming to be hurt, needing help. Both times I kept the door closed. My duplicate appeared every week or two. Different excuses each time. Delivery driver, lost tourist, someone looking for directions. Always my face. Always my voice. Always after 11:11 at night. The rules worked. As long as I followed them exactly, nothing got inside. Nothing hurt me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was building up, getting stronger. The knocking lasted longer each time. The voices in the basement got more desperate, more convincing. The cat started appearing in different rooms. The kitchen, the upstairs bathroom, once sitting on my bed when I woke up. I bought more candles. Kept the TV volume a little higher. Double-checked the locks every night. And I started wondering how long I could keep this up. How long before I made a mistake. The town's silence bothered me most. Whatever happened to the Brennans, everyone knew about it. Everyone was too scared to talk about it. I'd been living in the house for exactly 1 month when I realized something had changed. Not the house itself. The same creaky floorboards. The same kitchen faucet that dripped if you didn't turn it tight enough. The same view of the shed with its 3 padlocks from the back window. But something felt different about the whole place. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my morning coffee, looking at the cream-colored note I'd found that first morning. The paper had gotten soft from all my handling, the fold lines worn thin. I could recite the 7 rules by heart now, but I still read them every few days. A habit that had kept me alive. Never go outside between 11:11 p.m. and 6:06 a.m. Never enter the shed. Don't answer knocking after dark. Keep curtains closed from sunset to sunrise. Keep television or radio on in living room from sunset to sunrise. Never invite anyone inside. Go to basement immediately if you see lights in the woods. And the 7th rule I'd somehow missed that first week. If you find a white cat inside the house, feed it immediately and let it leave through the front door. Plus the storm rule I'd discovered later. During storms, light a white candle in the upstairs bathroom at midnight. Keep your bedroom door closed until the candle burns out. 31 days of following every single instruction. 31 nights of keeping the TV on, curtains drawn, doors locked. 31 days of feeding that white cat whenever it appeared, and watching it vanish into nothing. 31 nights of ignoring my own voice pleading from the porch. And I was still here, still breathing, still intact. The strange thing was, I wasn't scared anymore. Not the way I'd been that first week when every shadow made me jump and every sound after dark sent my heart racing. The fear had settled into something else. Awareness, maybe. Respect for whatever shared this space with me. I'd learned the rhythm of the house, the way the temperature dropped exactly 3 degrees at 11:11 p.m., how the basement door would drift open if I forgot to check the deadbolt, the soft padding of feet upstairs when the TV went quiet for too long. The house had rules. I followed them. We coexisted. I folded the note and set it back on the table, then walked to the living room window. Even with the curtains closed, enough light came through the gap at the bottom for me to see the front yard in daylight, the gravel driveway, my Honda Civic, the mailbox at the road. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. That's when I understood what had changed. The house felt like it had accepted me, not welcomed me exactly. This wasn't a warm embrace or a friendly invitation, but something had shifted in the past few days. The supernatural events still happened, but they felt different, less like tests and more like routine. The white cat still appeared, but it had stopped staring at me with those unnaturally bright green eyes. Now it just showed up, ate its tuna, and left. Business as usual. The voices from the basement had grown quieter. Still there, still trying to lure me downstairs, but without the desperate edge they'd had before. Even my duplicate had seemed different the last time it appeared. Less frantic, more resigned. I spent the day doing normal things. Vacuuming the living room, fixing a loose handle on the kitchen cabinet, driving to town for groceries, where Jeffrey at Price's Market asked how I was settling in and actually seemed to want an answer. Fine, I told him, loading milk and bread into my basket, getting used to the place. He nodded and went back to restocking shelves, but I caught him watching me in the security mirror, and his expression looked almost relieved. The sun set at 6:43 p.m. I closed all the curtains, turned on the TV to a nature documentary about wolves, and heated up a frozen dinner. Everything exactly as I'd done for the past month. But tonight felt different. I was washing my dinner plate when I heard the footsteps on gravel, earlier than usual. My phone showed 10:58 p.m. The footsteps came up the driveway slow and deliberate. No urgency, no attempt at stealth, just steady progress toward the house. I dried my hands and walked to the front window, staying to the side where I could peek through the gap in the curtains. My duplicate stood in the driveway about 20 feet from the porch. Same height, same build, same face. Tonight it wore jeans and a black jacket I'd never seen before, but definitely my face looking back at the house. It didn't approach the porch, didn't try the door or peer through windows, just stood there in the gravel, hands in its jacket pockets, looking directly at the living room window. At me. I should have stepped back, should have moved away from the window and waited for it to leave like always. But something made me stay put. The duplicate tilted its head slightly, then it raised one hand and nodded, a single slow nod of acknowledgement. I found myself nodding back before I could stop myself. The duplicate lowered its hand, turned around, and walked back down the driveway. Not hurried or frustrated like the other times. Just walking away, job done. I watched until it disappeared into the darkness beyond my mailbox. Then I closed the curtain gap and went back to the kitchen. My phone showed 11:07 p.m. The whole encounter had lasted maybe 3 minutes. No pleading, no attempts to get inside, no tricks or lies about being cold or hurt or lost. Just goodbye. I sat back down at the kitchen table and stared at the folded note. The cream-colored paper looked even more worn in the overhead light. Tuesday morning brought the white cat for what I somehow knew would be the last time. I woke up on the couch at 7:15 a.m. and found it sitting in the exact center of the living room, same as always. But when I sat up and rubbed my eyes, it didn't just stare. It blinked once, slowly, then started cleaning its left paw. "Morning," I said. The cat paused its cleaning and looked at me. Those bright green eyes didn't seem quite so unsettling anymore. I went to the kitchen and opened a can of tuna, dumping it onto the usual paper plate. The cat followed me and ate, but not with the rapid, desperate hunger it had shown before. More like a normal cat having breakfast. When it finished, it sat back and cleaned its face thoroughly. Then it did something new. It walked over to where I was standing by the counter and rubbed against my leg, purring. The sound was soft and warm and completely normal. Just a cat being affectionate. I reached down and scratched behind its ears, and the purring got louder. We stayed like that for maybe 5 minutes, me petting the cat purring and leaning into my hand, like any person with any pet on any ordinary morning. Then the cat stepped back, looked up at me one more time, and walked to the front door. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. The cat stepped onto the porch, turned to look back at me with what I could have sworn was gratitude, then walked to the edge of the porch and vanished. I stood in the doorway for a long time after that, looking out at the empty yard. The morning air was cool and clean, with that smell of dew and grass that meant autumn was coming. For the first time since I'd moved in, the house felt quiet. Not the tense, waiting quiet of the past month, but peaceful quiet. Settled. I closed the door and went back to the kitchen. The note was still on the table where I'd left it the night before. I picked it up and unfolded it, reading through the rules one more time. But as I read, I understood something I hadn't before. These weren't just instructions for surviving in the house. They were a job description. Someone had to know the rules. Someone had to follow them. Someone had to maintain the balance between the normal world and whatever existed in the spaces between 11:11 p.m. and 6:06 a.m. The Brennans had done it for 60 years. Harold and Margaret, then David and his family, keeping the rules, feeding the cat, lighting the candles, staying inside when they should, until something made them leave in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on their backs. I thought about David calling his neighbor from Portland, making up a story about moving closer to family, leaving behind furniture and clothes and a basement workshop because taking time to pack would have meant staying another night. What had broken after 60 years? What had made the rules stop working? Maybe they'd just gotten tired. Maybe the weight of keeping secrets for 6 decades had finally become too much. Maybe David's kids had grown up and moved away, and he and his wife couldn't face the responsibility alone anymore. Or maybe something had changed in the house itself. Maybe the balance had shifted and they'd known it was time to go. I folded the note and held it in my hands, feeling the soft paper and worn creases. The house was mine now. Not just the mortgage and the deed, but the real ownership that came with understanding what lived here. I was the one who would keep the curtains closed and the TV on. The one who would feed the white cat and light candles during storms. The one who would make sure whatever haunted this place stayed contained between these walls. I thought about the town's silence when I asked about the Brennans. The way conversations stopped and people found urgent business elsewhere when I brought up the house's history. They all knew, had probably known for years, maybe decades. They knew someone had to live here. Someone had to follow the rules. And now they knew that someone was me. I walked to the kitchen drawer where I kept pens and pulled out a black ballpoint. Then I sat back down at the table and turned the note over to the blank side. The cream-colored paper was smooth under my hand as I started writing. Your life depends on following these rules exactly. I paused, pen hovering over the paper. Someday, maybe years from now, maybe decades, I might need to leave this house the way the Brennans had. In the middle of the night, with no time for explanations or proper goodbyes. And whoever came after me would need to know what they were walking into. I kept writing, copying each rule in careful block letters, making sure my handwriting was clear and easy to read, making sure whoever found this note would understand how serious it was. When I finished, I set the pen down and looked at both pieces of paper. The original note that had saved my life, and the copy that might someday save someone else's. I folded my version and put it in the kitchen drawer with the pens. Insurance for a future I hoped I wouldn't need. Then I picked up the original note and read it one more time. The handwriting that had seemed so mysterious a month ago now looked familiar, like something written by someone who understood exactly what I was going through. Someone who had lived in this house and learned its rules and carried the weight of keeping its secrets. Someone who had cared enough to warn the next person. I refolded the note along its worn creases and set it back on the table. Tomorrow I would put it away somewhere safe. But tonight, I wanted it where I could see it. The sun was setting outside, painting the kitchen walls orange through the closed curtains. Time to turn on the TV and settle in for another night of keeping watch. I walked to the living room and found a movie channel showing an old western. Perfect background noise for the long hours between sunset and sunrise. As I arranged my pillow and blanket on the couch, I realized I wasn't dreading the night ahead. The rules that had felt like a prison a month ago now felt like purpose. I had a job to do, a responsibility that came with this house and this life I'd chosen. And for the first time since I'd found that cream-colored note on my kitchen counter, I felt ready for whatever the darkness might bring. I folded the note carefully and slipped it into my wallet, behind my driver's license where it wouldn't get lost. The decision felt solid in my chest. I wasn't going anywhere. This house had given me something Portland never did, something I didn't even know I was looking for. In the city, I'd wake up every morning wondering what the point was. Go to work, come home, watch TV, sleep, repeat until you die. But here, I had a job that mattered. Weird as hell, sure, but it mattered. I understood now what the Brennans had been doing for 60 years. They weren't just living here. They were standing guard, keeping something contained that needed containing. And when they finally couldn't do it anymore, they'd left in the middle of the night because they knew someone else would come. Someone would have to come. That someone turned out to be me. The morning light came through the kitchen window, hitting the empty spot on the counter where I'd first found the rules. I sipped my coffee and thought about what came next. I'd need to tell my landlord in Portland not to expect me back. Cancel the mail forwarding. Maybe call Jaden at some point, though I wasn't sure what I'd tell him about why I was staying. The truth was too strange for anyone to believe. Hell, I wouldn't have believed it myself 2 months ago. I finished my coffee and went upstairs to the master bedroom. In the corner sat an old wooden desk I'd barely paid attention to before. Dark wood, probably oak, with 3 drawers and brass handles that had gone green with age. I pulled open the top drawer and found what I was looking for. Cream-colored stationery. A whole stack of it, maybe 50 sheets. The same paper as the original note with the same weight and texture. Next to it sat a box of black ballpoint pens, the cheap kind you buy in bulk at office stores. I took out a single sheet and one of the pens, sat down at the desk and smoothed the paper flat. The chair creaked under my weight, but it held. At the top of the page I wrote, "Your life depends on following these rules exactly." My handwriting looked different from whoever had written the original, more angular, less flowing, but the words were the same, had to be the same. I copied each rule carefully, making sure I got the timing right on the first one. 11:11 p.m. to 6:06 a.m., not 11:15 or 6:05. The precision mattered. Rule 2, never enter the shed. Rule 3, don't answer knocking after dark. Rule 4, keep curtains closed between sunset and sunrise. Rule 5, never invite anyone inside. Rule 6, go to basement immediately if you see lights in woods. Rule 7, keep television or radio on in living room from sunset to sunrise. Rule 8, if you find a white cat inside the house, feed it immediately and let it leave through the front door. Rule 9, during storms, light a white candle in the upstairs bathroom at midnight. Keep your bedroom door closed until the candle burns out. I read through the list twice, checking each word against my memory of the original. Everything had to be perfect. The next person's life would depend on getting these instructions right, just like mine had. When I was satisfied with the copy, I folded it the same way the original had been folded. 3 creases, neat and sharp. Then I went back downstairs to the kitchen and opened the drawer next to the sink. I placed the folded note inside, next to the spare batteries and the book of matches. The note would stay there until it was needed. Maybe next month, maybe next year, maybe not for decades. But when someone new moved into this house, when they were standing in this kitchen wondering what they'd gotten themselves into, the note would appear on the counter, just like it had for me. I closed the drawer and looked around the kitchen. My kitchen now. The white cabinets, the new light fixture I'd installed, the coffee maker humming on the counter. It didn't look like much, but it was mine. I walked through the living room, where the couch still had my pillow and blanket from the night before. The TV was off now, but come sunset I'd turn it back on. Find something to watch while I waited for whatever the darkness might bring. The routine had become second nature. Upstairs, I checked each bedroom. The master where I kept my clothes, the middle room I used for storage, the small one at the end of the hall that I'd left empty. All 3 windows had their curtains drawn tight. I wouldn't open them until after sunrise tomorrow. In the bathroom, I looked at the white candle sitting on the counter, half burned down from the last storm. I'd need to buy more candles soon, add them to my grocery list along with tuna for the cat and batteries for the remote. Strange how normal it all felt now. 2 months ago, the idea of living by a set of supernatural rules would have seemed insane. Now it was just Tuesday morning maintenance. Check the candles, make sure the curtains were closed, keep the TV schedule on track. I went back downstairs and stood at the kitchen window, looking out at the backyard. The shed sat there like always, its 3 padlocks hanging from the chain. I'd never know what was inside, and that was fine with me. Some doors weren't meant to be opened. The garden area was starting to show signs of spring. Green shoots pushing up through the old soil where someone had planted vegetables years ago. Maybe I'd try growing something this year. Tomatoes, maybe. Or peppers. Give myself a project for the daylight hours. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from my old boss in Portland, asking when I was coming back to clean out my desk. I typed back, "Not coming back. Mail me whatever's important." He responded quickly, "Everything okay?" This seemed sudden. I stared at the message for a long time before typing, "Everything's fine. Found what I was looking for." That was true enough. I had found what I was looking for, even though I hadn't known I was looking for it when I left Portland. Purpose? Responsibility. A reason to get up every morning that wasn't just habit. I deleted his number from my phone, cut another tie to the life I'd left behind. The house settled around me with small creaks and sighs. Not supernatural sounds, just old wood adjusting to the temperature. I'd learned to tell the difference. The house had its normal sounds and its other sounds. The footsteps that weren't footsteps. The voices that weren't voices. The knocking that wasn't knocking. But during the day, it was just a house. My house. I made myself a sandwich for lunch and ate it standing at the counter looking out at the shed. 3 padlocks. Heavy chain. Whatever was in there had been locked up for a reason, and I was going to keep it that way. After lunch, I called the electric company to take my name off the Portland apartment account, then the cable company, then the renter's insurance. One by one, I severed the connections to my old life. Each phone call made this decision more real, more permanent. By 3 o'clock, I was officially a Millfield resident. No going back now. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing the upstairs closet, hanging up clothes that had been living in suitcases for 2 months. It felt good to unpack properly, to arrange things like I planned to stay. Because I did plan to stay, for as long as the house would have me. Around 5, I drove to Price's Market for groceries. Jeffrey was behind the counter as usual, reading a paperback Western. He looked up when I walked in. "Afternoon, Terry. How's the house treating you?" "Good," I said. "Real good." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Glad to hear it. You're looking settled." I picked up milk, bread, and a few cans of tuna. Added a package of white candles from the small household goods section. Jeffrey rang everything up without comment, but I caught him watching me in the security mirror above the register. "Planning to stick around Millfield?" he asked as he bagged my groceries. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." Something relaxed in his expression. Relief, maybe. Like he'd been holding his breath for 2 months and could finally let it out. Well, that's good news. Town needs folks willing to put down roots. I paid for the groceries and headed home. The sun was getting low, painting the sky orange and pink. Sunset was coming, which meant it was almost time to start the evening routine. Back at the house, I put away the groceries and closed all the curtains. Checked the basement door to make sure it was locked tight. Turned on the TV to a channel showing old sitcom reruns. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and looked at the empty spot where the original note had been. Tomorrow morning, someone driving through Oregon might see a for sale sign and decide to stop. Or maybe next week. Or next month. Whenever it happened, they'd find the same thing I'd found. A house that needed someone to watch over it. Someone to follow the rules and keep the balance. Someone to stand guard between the normal world and whatever lived in the spaces between. I'd survived the house's test, learned its requirements, earned the right to stay. The responsibility was mine now, and I was ready for whatever came next.